Introducing the Cognito EODD pump. This mammoth workhorse has been designed to achieve relentless efficiency by optimizing systems. The purpose is simple: limit downtime as much as possible. The robust design of this pump means you'll spend less time on maintenance. The few parts which may need attention are the diaphragm, ball valves, and the seats. High quality synthetic oil is also required. To begin maintenance, switch off the power supply. Isolate the suction and discharge valves. Once the pump has been isolated, remove bottom 2 bolts of the suction elbow with a 19mm wrench and wait for the fluid to drain off completely. Now remove the other 2 bolts. Next, remove the discharge elbow bolts and the wet chamber bolts. Remove the outer chamber. If the diaphragm is not in the discharge position, remove the fan cap of the motor. Rotate the fan of the motor to get the diaphragm in the discharge position. Check the health of the diaphragm. If it needs to be replaced, begin decoupling and replacement process for the diaphragm assembly. Use an F key to rotate the diaphragm in the counterclockwise direction. Once loosened, continue to rotate the diaphragm while supporting it with your hands. This will prevent thread damage. Remove the diaphragm assembly from the chamber. Next, check the inner chamber for any slurry. If a very little quantity is found, then clean the inner surface and the sensor with a cotton cloth to remove any dirt or grit. If you find a large quantity of slurry, remove the sensor completely from the inner chamber. Clean the inner chamber and sensor thoroughly with a cotton cloth. Remove the bolts on the diaphragm plate. Then remove the piston plate and the diaphragm from the assembly. Replace the used diaphragm with a new diaphragm. Properly align the diaphragm onto the diaphragm plate. Place the piston plate onto the diaphragm and diaphragm plate. Tighten the bolts and then torque them to 135 inch-pounds in a star pattern. Put the diaphragm assembly back in the diaphragm chamber, rotate it clockwise, torque the diaphragm with the help of an F key, replace the outer chamber. The faces should mate with each other. Tighten the bolts of the discharge elbow, outer chamber, and suction elbow. Next, remove the bolts of the discharge elbow case with a 19mm wrench. Lift and remove the discharge elbow case. Check the health of the ball and seat. If they need to be replaced, proceed with a replacement. Put the discharge elbow back and tighten the bolts on the discharge elbow and torque them to the recommended specs. Then, remove the bolts of the suction elbow with a 19mm wrench. Remove the suction elbow. Check the health of the ball and seat. If they need to be replaced, proceed with a replacement. Put the suction elbow back, tighten the bolts on the discharge elbow, and torque them to recommended spec. Change the oil in case the oil has been in use for either 3,000 hours or for 1 year, whichever occurs first. Discoloration of the oil could be another reason to replace the oil. This can be seen with the sight glass window and compared with the color chart that can be found in the applicable manual. To drain the oil, open the drain plug by using a 30mm wrench and collect the oil in a container. The drained oil should be replaced with ISO BG 320 synthetic oil by filling it from the filling plug. To install the motor on site, align the motor on the gearbox and place it on the gearbox flange. Tighten the bolts with a wrench. To install the dampener on site, place the dampener inlet flange with a gasket on the pump flange. Tighten the nuts of the stud with a wrench. Inspect the pump before starting it. Remember, before starting it, open the discharge and suction isolating valves, then switch on the pump. Once again, remember that the need for maintenance in the Cognito EODD pump is rare. Also, maintenance can be done on site simply and quickly by most technicians.